Hello. So in this video, I'm going to be taking an in-depth look at Ghostbusters 2016 and Ghostbusters Afterlife. To make this quite simple, I'm either going to say the 2016 or the Afterlife from this point forward. I also want to state that there will be major spoilers for both, mostly Afterlife. So if you have not seen either of these movies and you want to formulate your own opinion without any bias, watch those movies first, then come back and see the comparison. Now, I'm almost certain that my stance on the fact I do not like the 2016 version is pretty much crystal clear. And after I finish comparing these two, I'm also going to give my idea for which one can continue on and which one way they should continue on. If you haven't seen my D&D time with my daughter, I think I touched base on that a little bit, but I'll go into a full in-depth synopsis of where it could go now that I think would please the fans and would be really epic for the franchise. So let's get started. The 2016 one. Why did that fail and Afterlife succeeded? Now, I know about the box office. I know that technically Afterlife has made a little less. But if you consider the conditions of the releases, the 2016 one was not held back by current world events that either prevented people from going to the theater or made people question whether they wanted to see it. The 2016 one left a pretty bad taste in a lot of people's, thoughts, where they weren't even sure they wanted to see any more Ghostbusters stuff. And you can't really blame Afterlife for that. So it's probably making more money the longer it's out. And I suspect it will, in time, surpass. But the 2016 one came out in the middle of summer. It had a lot of budget, a lot of promotion behind it, whereas Afterlife did not. Afterlife was pushed back from its summer release for over a year to November when it finally released, which is right before Thanksgiving, where people are saving up their money to go Christmas shopping. Honestly, Afterlife should have came out near the beginning of October or the end of September. I think it would have made more money at that point. And it would have blown the 2016 one out of the water. Because then, at that time, it would have been a good release for Halloween. So why did that, in my opinion, and in most people's opinion, did the 2016 fail to Afterlife? Was it because it had a full woman cast? Not entirely. I think it was severely miscasted. And they made a really big deal about, if you don't like our movie, then you're an ist or a phobe. And that's basically, upsetting half of your audience that you're trying to reach. If you have, let's say, 50% men and 50% women, which honestly, Ghostbusters was probably more along the lines of 70% men and 30% women. Growing up in my house, My dad liked it okay. I mean, he would watch it if anyone else was watching it. My sister, same thing. She'd watch it. My stepmom, she might sit in the room, but she'd probably read a book and not get too interested in the movie. She liked the original just fine. I was the only one who would probably be glued to the screen. So out of 4 people, you got 1 diehard fan that would be watching it, 2 that would watch it just because it's something on, and 1 that they're just existing in the room, listening to it, or doing something in the background, playing on a computer or something while they listen to it. So it wasn't because it was an all-women cast. Could an all-woman cast work? Yes. But the fact was that when the 2016 one was being made and being promoted, it was being promoted as some revolutionary thing. Like some great thing that's never been done before. But we've had movies where it's been a female cast. Not the original Charlie's Angels. The original TV show. But the first version, the one with Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu, that version of Charlie's Angels did very well. And yet, the new one, I think in 2019, didn't. A large portion is because 2016 Ghostbusters was pushing that female agenda so hard. And, okay, you want to make them all women. Fine. Why is it that these 4 women are not very attractive? If you're going to appeal to men, there's a classic saying when it comes to sales, and that is sex sells. Sorry, that's just a fact. If there had been prettier women in the movie, you might have gotten a few extra men to go watch the movie. But let's talk about that agenda for a little bit. So, they pushed this agenda that they're replacing the men. Okay. Well, they didn't really replace. They just kind of redid it with women. Replacing means you're taking the men out and putting the women in. So it wasn't set in the 80s. They didn't come over and take over the original Ghostbusters business. These were just 4 women who came together and started busting ghosts. Or fighting ghosts. They hardly trapped any of the ghosts that they fought. Maybe 2? And then, on top of it, they had to make all the men look stupid, weak, or mean. And even the women, the main 4 girls, they weren't even that nice. A lot of people say, oh, they had to make the women the only good ones. And there wasn't a single likable character in that movie. So I'm going to go through them. And we're going to start with Melissa McCartney. I would have to say I'm not a huge fan of Melissa McCartney's. I think only about 30% of her filmography I would actually be willing to sit through. And I really don't find her to be the funniest parts of those movies. Not that I have anything personally against her. There are certain roles I think she'd be good for. If they redid Misery, I could see her playing Annie. I think that would be believable. But, I mean, all in all, I just don't find her very funny. I think drama in serious movies is where she shines. I grew up in a household where on certain nights every TV was tuned in to the WB, which is now the CW, and everybody in my family would watch all the shows, one of which was Gilmore Girls. So I saw little bits and pieces of Gilmore Girls here and there growing up when I would go to visit my mother. I thought she seemed fine in that, but she acted like a normal human being. Kristen Wiig. I'd have to say, out of the four women, she was the most normal and the most relatable, but there were times it was like, okay, she's so bland. She's just kind of going along with it. I just don't feel much from this character. Leslie Jones? Well, if you're going to talk about racism and you're going to talk about being an ist or a phobe, then this has been said probably by many people before, but she was basically a replacement for Winston's character. There was nothing really different between her and Winston. I believe in the comics or in some other formation of the original Ghostbusters that Winston actually did have some scientific degrees that he had studied, which actually makes Leslie Jones' character more common of a trope, or, whatever that's called. And the fact that she was so loud from the moment she enters the film. And it's just like, God, I've met people like this in real life, so I understood the realism. But it was very generic. A thing that's been used in so many movies. And it's like, why don't you lean away from that? She was chewing on the scenery almost as much as this last person, which is Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon was supposed to be like the Egon replacement, and it's just like, I don't even know what to say. She seemed like she should be in a mental hospital. I'm sorry, she just did not seem coherently well. She and Leslie seemed to be at grips over who was going to get the funniest laugh. And, I mean, she made these weird faces. She did some of the strangest, weirdest things for no reason other than to say, hey, look at me and laugh. And I just did not enjoy that. I've told people, and this is the honest truth, I have watched the 2016 Ghostbusters 2 times on home video, Blu-ray. And of the 2 times, the only part of that movie that I enjoyed, that I thought was cool, was in movies, you got those black bars, which I really hate. But in this one, the effects went outside the black bars. When the ghost vomits, which is in the trailer, so it's not much of a spoiler, that vomit flows over in the black bars. When they shoot their proton packs, which look really weird, but when they shoot those, the beams go into the black bars, like off screen, which looked really cool. And I thought that was a really nice touch. I don't know if you're really going to see that in a theater, but on home video it was cool. I heard it's in the Warcraft movie, so it's been a long time, and I might have to go back and revisit that, but if that's the truth, Well, that's cool. I wish they would do that for more science fiction or action movies. If you break the movie down to its basic form, then it's kind of the same thing as the original Ghostbusters. The biggest difference here is that in this movie, there's 0 likable characters. And what the biggest probably turnoff for me isn't just the fact that they made all of the side characters unlikable. They made me start to not like some of the Marvel universe. I grew to almost hate an actor from his role in this movie, and I'm talking about Chris Hemsworth. Because he was not only so unlikable, he was so stupid. And you're taking an iconic character like Thor and turning him into a bumbling idiot. He was, let's put it this way, to me, he was dumber than Zoolander.
You went full retard, man.
And if you've seen Zoolander, Zoolander is pretty unintelligent. And they made Chris Hemsworth, Thor, worse than him.
Never go full retard.
I get that Chris Hemsworth is part of this woke group, and if that's his thing, I don't want to be, seeing his stuff anymore. When Thor Love and Thunder comes out, I'm probably skipping that one. I get that the powers I get the whole idea that the powers are going to be transferred to Natalie Portman, and I do love Natalie Portman, but I just don't want to see that woke crap in a Thor movie. And I think a lot of the fans are going to feel that way too. So, that is the stuff I disliked about the 2016. But you didn't have anyone truly like Egon. You had someone who was like a more hyper anxious version of Winston. I mean, Winston was just kind of there. Just kind of going along with it and helping out and learning what it took to be a Ghostbuster. And then the two main characters, who's supposed to be like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, one was uninteresting and one just was overly trying to be funny and fell short every time. But, I mean, it has an audience. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't appeal to anyone. It appeals to some people. I've met a couple people that say they like it. Hey, it's got its fans, so I'll let it be. I'm not going to say don't watch it if you're a fan. I'm just going to say that's not my movie. I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to watch it. Any more that comes out from anything that comes out by Paul Feig, pretty much I don't like his movies. I don't think I have a single movie that he ever directed. And yes, I've gotten rid of the 2016 Ghostbusters. I don't own that anymore. So, no, I have nothing created by Paul Feig as far as I know. Now, I've seen some of these women in movies that I do like. For instance, I have Happy Time Murders, which stars Melissa McCartney. I have a movie with Kristen Wiig. And I think even Kate McKinnon's in it too, where they're doing some kind of scam. Masterminds, I believe, is the movie. and that they're okay in. I think Kate McKinnon, I didn't care for her character very much. Again, she seemed extremely weird, and I really wish I'd like to see her in a good role where she's not playing someone who's so psychotically weird that looks like they should be in a mental institution under psychiatric care. So, but I mean, Kristen Wiig did okay in the movie. She plays this love interest that's like trying to manipulate him. But that's a good movie with her. Leslie Jones, I'm just not a big fan of. I don't know if I even own a movie with her in it. If she is in any of the movies I have, then it's probably a very small role and she's in the background. So now let's really compare why this one, 16, doesn't work to Afterlife. Well, basically because Afterlife continued on from the original movies. It picks up, yes, years and years later, but they pay respect to the original actors. They don't make everybody unlikable. They make the main characters relatable and likable for everybody. Yes, there's a lot of fan service in Afterlife. I liked that. I thought it was good. I thought it gave the movie that extra feel of this is a Ghostbusters movie. The main little girl, Grace Mckinna, I believe is her name. She really looked like she could be related to Harold Ramis, the actual actor. Like, they casted her perfectly. The son, maybe. I mean, he had the same curly hair as Egon. Yeah, he had it really grown out, so it hung low, unlike Egon, who kept his hair up, similar to the way Grace had her hair up. But I could buy that maybe he took more from the mother's side, you know? Even though the mother was kind of blondish, but maybe, took more from her. But I could buy those characters. They weren't, there was this ongoing joke in the movie where Grace kept making really bad jokes. But that's a kid, My daughter, to me, she comes to me and she'll say, "Daddy, I have a joke for you." And she says something that she finds absolutely hysterical. And I just have to smile and go, "Oh, you're so cute. I love you." Because I don't want to hurt her feelings. I love my daughter and I want her to feel like, she is getting some reaction out of me, even though the joke isn't really that funny. I'm letting her believe. I'm giving her hope. And even though Kate McKinnon's jokes weren't funny, that felt like a real thing kids do. Why? Because my own child does it. So it was realistic in a real sense that a real parent watching that movie can connect with and go, that's how my kid would be. Just trying to get a laugh from somebody, saying the darndest thing to get that laugh. And they had a lot of the original stuff. I remember when they revealed that in the 2016, the new Ghostbusters vehicle was going to be a hearse. I was like, no, that looks stupid. That looks dumb. Here, we got the original car back. And it wasn't untouched by time. It had wear and tear on it. And yes, there are critics out there, even some of the critics who say they like the Afterlife one, that, even to this day, are misreviewing the movie. And I will go out and I will publicly say, and I challenge any YouTuber to debate me on this. That I'm talking to bigger channels here who sat there and said, oh, I didn't buy this, or this was a little too much, or this didn't make sense. Like, oh, how do the kids know how to use the proton pack? Or how come a little kid can use the proton pack when it's so heavy and the original Ghostbusters had trouble? Or how did podcasts know how to use the RC car? Okay, so let me break this down, how I saw this. And maybe this will answer some of the questions. And, the creators, they're free to step in and comment or say if I'm right or wrong. But let me give this a try. Because, it doesn't take a lot of brain power to figure out the answers to these questions. And they are basically this. How did they know how to use the proton pack? Well, probably because she could read. You flip a switch here, which says on or off. We saw a scene where the night before, she was fixing it up. Under the supervision, and again, I'm going to say spoilers, but she's doing it under the supervision of Egon's ghost. So she got a really, really good look at the proton pack. Notice that at first, she's the only one with the proton pack. The others don't use a proton pack until later. Now, how could she use it if it was so heavy? At most, they were probably like 50 pounds. But not knowing the exact weight of the original proton packs. Remember, we're talking the original first generation proton packs built in Ghostbusters 1. Now you could say there was hardly any change between Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2. And I do believe that Ghostbusters 2 is canon. It just wasn't the huge event that really needed to be mentioned. I think the whole event from Ghostbusters 1 was bigger, but we'll get into that after. So how could they use it? Well, first off, if Egon just died a week ago, then he was getting pretty old as the original actors, and I'm sure the brilliant scientist that Egon was, at aging the way Egon would have aged, and with the advancements in technology that we have nowadays, could have redesigned the proton packs to at least be somewhat lighter, using microchips and other chips and circuitry to make the proton packs less bulky inside. Maybe it still had to be the same size, but at least on the inside, I'm sure there was different components than he was able to use back in the 1980s, which is 40 years. In 40 years, I'm pretty sure some of those components, A, don't get made anymore, and Egon had to either construct or find replacements that would have caused the pack to be lighter. Which means that those proton packs probably, maybe, only weighed about 20 to 25 pounds. Max. Because he's an old man. He's going to need a lighter proton pack that he could easily use when he's trying to go after Gozer and his minions. So, that is my explanation for why the kids could use the proton packs when they're so heavy. I don't think they were really that heavy. I think that Egon would have, like I said, replaced the components inside to make the overall weight of them come down. Now, how could Podcast know how to use the RC car and what buttons did what? Which is a question I've heard brought up. I don't know. Maybe because remote control cars are like the common kids toy. I mean, most kids, you can hand them an RC car with batteries already in it, and I'm pretty sure they can figure out how it works real quick. Especially, we don't know. Maybe he already has a bunch of RC cars. We really didn't learn a lot about his character outside of that he's into podcasting, which means he has some level of understanding of technology at his age. Which means he might be into RC cars and video cameras. If I had a video camera and an RC car, I probably would hook that together to make some kind of video or something when I was a kid. Even as an adult, I still own some things. Like, I have a drone. And kids are able to figure this stuff out sometimes easier than adults are. I have trouble with my drone because it goes crazy and flies all over the place. But I'm sure if I gave it to my daughter, I'm pretty sure she could figure it out real quick. If I bought her an RC car tomorrow, I'm pretty sure within a day she'll know how it works. And how does he know which button makes the trap go? Maybe it was labeled? If not, okay, this trigger makes it go forward. This trigger makes it go left or right. This big button in the middle must activate the trap. I mean, it's not like it's real rocket scientist kind of stuff to figure out what does what. The answers are always right there in the movie if you just take the time to really think about it. And sometimes you don't even need that much time. Sometimes it's pretty clear how they're able to do these things. So, that's just some of the stuff I've heard people try to nitpick and say, oh, well, this stuff doesn't really work for me. It doesn't seem realistic. But, I mean, it does if you really think about it. This is the same issue I had with Star Wars. Yes, is the Star Wars sequels great? No. Are any of them great? Not exactly. I love Star Wars. I will watch every single film. Does it have problems? Always. But the answers to some of the questions are literally right in your face as you're watching the movie. And you really don't need to think about it too hard to get your answer. And no, they don't come right out and say it. This is what drives me nuts as an author, because as I'm writing my books, I go for the whole show over telling. But then I worry. I'm like, well, the general audience nowadays doesn't seem to get it unless you tell them. They don't seem to understand. Like, how could the kids use the proton packs? I don't know. Maybe Grace gave them a quick rundown of how the proton packs worked on the way home to go set the trap. You know, there are times where you gotta understand that these events are not happening consistently. The drive home probably took them 30 minutes to an hour from the top of the mountain. And the fact that they had that much time, oh, okay, Mom, you drive, we're going to show you how to use this. This turns you on. This sets your beam. You know, you could tell 2 or 3 people at a time. Go over it with them. Test them in an hour. Yeah, they're probably not going to be great, but when you got a giant, big, entity in front of you that's, lit, sparkling like a Christmas tree, it's pretty easy to, pretty much aim towards it. And most kids have played some sort of shooter game, so a lot of kids nowadays have really good aim right out the gate. And not to mention the fact you've only got a limited time to get this movie done. So you just got to assume that some of this stuff is going on between scenes. You don't need every little detail spelled out, or otherwise the movies should be going for days. And you should be living the days of events that is following this group of people you're following. But something tells me that most people wouldn't sit through that. And then they would say, oh, it's too long. It's too explainy. I lose my mind watching CinemaSins. I've thought about doing some kind of, speeding up what the Birdman does. Because I'm a big fan of his channel. Because I don't know how he does it. I can't understand for the life of me how he can sit through those videos and then have people berate him in his comments, sending him hate comments when it's like, you do realize that he is like 100% correct and CinemaSins is 100% wrong. CinemaSins opened their everything wrong with Ghostbusters video, and I kid you not, the first sin right out the gate was because a bunch of people were in a library reading. Like, dumbass, that is literally what people go to a library to do. And I believe that the library was on the college campus. Or at least near the college campus. Enough for Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd to have learned about the incident real quick. And the first thing you're going to do on that video is people reading in a library. And that it didn't stop there. It got worse. That video got so much worse. It's not even funny. I wanted to do a video on that. I was so close. I thought about it, and I'm still, if Birdman doesn't do it soon, I'm pretty sure he's working on it. But I was so close to doing that. Because, that was cringy. That was the cringiest video I've ever seen CinemaSins do. And I wouldn't call myself the diehard Ghostbusters fan. I don't have a awful lot of their merchandise. I have some. I have a shirt. My daughter has some. She has a shirt. But I wouldn't say I'm the diehardest. I love the movies, except for the 2016. But yeah, I mean, that video, oh my god. And I don't understand because every time I watch one of his videos, and I haven't watched him as much lately as I used to. I used to watch him and think, God, this guy's so stupid. This channel is so stupid. And it's not even funny stupid. It's just stupid. Because they sit there in one video, or even in the same video sometimes, and they say, well, you're not telling us how this happened. And then a few scenes later, someone's explaining something, and it's either turned into a wokeism, saying that they're mansplaining because it's a guy. And why'd you ask the guy? Or he has to sin it because exposition. Isn't that what you just fucking asked for 2 minutes ago? You had to wait 2 minutes? And that's how it's not just him. It's not just CinemaSins. I've seen it other places where people do not use their brains to logically process movies, and they get mad when something isn't explained. These same people who would then get mad if something is explained. It's like, which one do you want? You can't get both. You can't not have it explained and have it explained. You gotta take a pick. You want to be shown, or do you want to be told? That is my biggest issue when it comes to writing, honestly. Because I don't know. The rule is show, don't tell. But the world is tell, don't show. Just tell me about it. Oh, I don't actually want to watch Game of Thrones. Just tell me what happened in the episode and I'll be fine. And I think that's how, a lot of these critics watch their movies. They would rather just be told what's happening in the movie. Like when Rise of Skywalker was coming out. I've mentioned this in a previous video. There was this whole thing at the end of Rise of Skywalker where Rey originally, before the movie had even come out, had been leaked. And it was that Rey moves into Luke's old home on Tatooine and adapts the name Skywalker. And then I went to the movie thinking, oh God, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. And sure enough, the scene was setting up for the end. She was on Tatooine. I was at a loss. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody actually got this leak right. And I'm watching it. And yes and no. Some of that stuff that they said was going to happen, happened. She was on Tatooine, but she was there at the old Lars home burying Luke and Leia's lightsaber. Now, I open this question up in the comments. Where else in the galaxy that Luke and Leia called home? Where could they have, possibly called home? Well, Luke grew up on Tatooine. Leia grew up on Alderaan. Alderaan does not exist anymore. The Empire blew it up. Luke's home planet that he lived on as a child, grew up on as a child, was Tatooine. And, honestly, Tatooine is strong in the Force. It's strong in the dark side of the Force, I think, if I remember my Star Wars expanded lore correctly, which is one of the reasons Yoda picked it to hide Luke there. But it is strong in the Force. And she buries the lightsaber. It's a sign of respect. It's a sign of because she doesn't have bodies to bury, so she buries their weapons in place of them. At his old childhood home, the place Luke grew up, which is a real burial rite that is practiced in our world. Yes, I know. It's a galaxy far away, and I've made that statement along, and nobody pays attention to that anyway. But it's still a burial rite. And as she's leaving to go back to the Falcon and climb on board the Falcon and leave, some lady walks by and asks her name. Palpatine is the worst criminal in the galaxy. Yeah, true, she could have just gone by Rey. But the Skywalker family had just done so much for her. And honestly, not taking my theory into account, but I'll put a link to that. I believe she really is a Skywalker and a Palpatine. I believe she's both. I'm going to let that sink in for a sec. That she is both a Palpatine and a Skywalker. And even if you don't go by my theory, if you just go by the movie, she is a Skywalker in spirit because Ben gave his life force, all of it, to bring Rey back to life. She was dying. She was on the glimpse of death. She would have died. The last few embers of life burned within her, and they were going out. And he gave every ounce of his life force to her to save her because she was worth saving, and he knew he wasn't. That his life, even if he lived, was over, and that he might as well do something good before that. So he gave all of his energy, the last spirit or soul of a Skywalker, to her. So in essence, she is the last Skywalker. Unless she has kids. And don't even get me started on that part that I don't like. But as you can see, it's just that comes straight from the movie. I didn't need them to tell me that. She had a strong connection to Luke and Leia through the 3 movies. It was made clear. She spent time with both of them. And to say that she hardly knew them would be a lie. And then on top of that, to add, the icing to the cake, she was given the life force of a Skywalker. So she is, in essence, a Skywalker. And she adapted the name, not just, because, I'm just going to do it. Although, what's to stop her from doing that? To pay homage and honor to the family that saved her. Rather than take the last name and be proud. I mean, that would be like, I think I said this in my other video, it's like a long-lost child of Hitler. You think they're going to walk around proud of that last name, Hitler? Or you think they're going to say, Yeah, I'm going to keep my strange last name that no one knows who I really am, and I'm just going to keep quiet. I mean, there are certain names in our own culture that, you hear it and you're instantly going to think of a bad person because somebody bad with that name did something horrible. So you can't really blame her. And if you can, well, then that's just being stubborn, and that's just who you are, and you're not going to change, so there's no reason to try and change. The fact is, I like the movies. I think they fit for me. And going back to what I was saying, so Ghostbusters Afterlife really does follow the original movies. And yes, there's this little thing about how, Ghostbusters 2 doesn't really exist in this world. They never said that. In fact, there's evidence to support the contrary. Just because the painting isn't brought up, just because that event from 2 isn't really brought up, doesn't mean 2 didn't happen. I mean, we still got Ray's Occult Books, which was introduced in the second movie, and somebody on YouTube pointed out that in one of the background shots, you can see the jars of slime. So I truly believe that event still happened, and after that event, I could see why they would say everything died down. Because after Vigo, after Gozer, there was no larger threats coming along. It was really quiet all through New York, with nothing drawing ghosts to them. And basically the company died without any new clients. Without anything big to fall back on. And Egon was pretty sure, I mean, you could tell from the first movie that there had to be, a cult is not just going to, always make one place. They're going to have factions. So it's pretty believable that more was going on with the Gozer bit. And Gozer was worshipped in many places. So it's apparent that this is a seed that's dropped, along the way on some kind of path. Egon, after, the Vigo incident, grew obsessed with it and said, hey, I don't think we're done with that Gozer thing either. So I'm going to keep investigating it. And they were like, no, drop it. And it's a good thing he didn't. But I do think the movie works because it holds true to the original. It really looks like characters from the original. It follows the original timeline. It's not trying to replace, even though it kind of does. But it does it in a good way. And I would want to see more of these characters. So, how should this franchise continue in the future? Well, I think they should definitely just stick with the Afterlife storyline and continue from there. I think it should continue on as a TV show. Maybe get another movie or two down the road, but I think it should mainly be a TV show. That Winston and Annie Potts could be, guest stars in. And it's basically, in the, 2-3 years since Afterlife, there have been, ghost sightings and stuff all across the country. Because it really bugged me that they were only focused on New York. And for such an original idea, for such an original company, you would think that if there was ghosts anywhere else in the country, they should have other offices around the country. So I think they should have a TV show that's sort of a cross between The Office and Cops. Meaning, It's like The Office. It's filmed like The Office, but during those episodes, you actually travel along, like any of those bounty hunter shows, like Dog the Bounty Hunter, something along that line, but also, a comedy like The Office. And I think each episode, like Cops, should focus on a different Ghostbusters location with a different cast in a different town in a different state. And there could be 4 different locations. So one week you're, let's say, in Miami, Florida. Next week you're in Austin, Texas. The week after that, you're in Los Angeles, California. The week after that, you're in San Francisco. Or Arizona. Somewhere in Arizona. I don't know. Chuck a dart at a map of the U.S. and see what comes up. But, they should try to cover the 4. Some of the rest of the map, New York's pretty much got the northeast covered. So I feel like San Francisco could cover the northwest. Los Angeles could cover the southwest. Austin, Texas covers the middle. And Miami, Florida could cover the southeast. Pretty much hitting, a 5-point grid, That's just my idea. And then after a season or 2 of that TV show, you could take the 4 most popular characters and have them, come to New York for something big. Or I don't even know. Honestly, I think just a TV show would be enough. I think that would be a really good TV show. I'd even be willing to help write it. Being that this is my idea, I made a Facebook page about this idea in protest in 2015 to the fact that they were making another Ghostbusters movie. I'm like, no, don't make a movie. Make a TV show. This would be so much better. You could cover so much more ground talking about this as a TV show. And I think that would play into how Afterlife ends. I think it should go that way. It would make sense. It would be bigger franchise to actually do something like that. And if they did make another movie and they took the 4 best actors from the TV show and brought them onto the big screen to do something big in New York, I think that would be epic. Or even if you need more Ghostbusters than 4, you got backups. You got however many in each location. And you can have men and women. You can have so many more actors who want to be Ghostbusters. Who are there to be funny and not push the envelope. Because that would be the real competition, is how well you portray the character if you're going to make it into the movie. So you want to be the best Ghostbuster on the TV show to make your chance of getting into the next movie. Almost like a competition for actors. And let the fans decide which actors do like a public rating of which Ghostbusters out of all the locations are their favorites. And see who comes out on top. Who are the top 4? I think that would be an interesting way. It would definitely get the fans involved in picking the next cast of the big screen Ghostbusters. And they could even bring in, Grace Mckinnon can still be in the movie. Or she could even be in the TV show if she wanted, doing guest appearances. Maybe she takes over Egon's spot, creating new tech for the Ghostbusters to use. And we could expand the tech. Maybe Podcast is there doing guest shots, doing a podcast from Ghostbusters HQ. Maybe he's Winston's like personal secretary as he goes to high school and college. I mean, he's basically got a career already set up. You know? Maybe the mother's there. We could get so much more. And we can keep bringing in the original actors for some guest appearances. I mean, one of the locations can be the newest location. One of them could be the oldest location from right after Afterlife. Oh, he went and bought, I don't know, let's say Florida. Miami, Florida right away. So they got the East Coast all covered. Then, maybe Austin, Texas is the brand newest location, so we could get Winston in there, training them or, mentoring the new group that's going to take over that location, And there's just so much possibility with having it as a TV series. So if that is what you want, spread the word on this video. Get one of the Reitmans or Sony or anyone big. Bring some attention to this video, to this channel, if you want to see this happen, because I think this would be the best chance for Ghostbusters moving forward. I'm going to, ask you guys what you think. Tell me in the comments below, is that too crazy of an idea? I mean, yeah, the Office stuff has been done a bunch of times, but it's not been done in a way like this. And it's not been done where it's been interactive for the fans, where the fans are ultimately going to get to choose who will be in the next Ghostbusters movie by picking in a public poll when they go to do casting who their favorite Ghostbusters from the TV show is. That, to me, would make the movie work. And the cast and the franchise fans of the franchise, are going to vote. I mean, look at Sonic. That company listened to the fans of Sonic. And the Sonic movie did really well. Ghostbusters fans will vote on who they like the most. I'm not saying that the weakest characters have to lose their jobs, but that might be the case. Because they might say, hey, you two, you are at the very bottom. We're letting you go. We're giving you one episode where you're going to you get to choose whether you die or get fired, but you're gone after that. And we're going to bring in 2 new guys. I think that would be a spectacular idea. I think it would really be great for the fans. You could hit a ton of freaking stuff. All the different mythology, all the different types of ghosts you could use, all the different kind of locations they could be going to. I mean, you could have like an episode with the Texas crew where they get a case that is just across the border into Mexico. And they're dealing with the spirit of La Llorona, which is a famous ghost story down in Mexico. And they actually track her down to bust her and capture her. Also, they could keep that town. I believe it was Oregon. I might be wrong about that location, but they could keep that town and actually have it where the entire farm was turned into a gigantic, huge, massive containment unit for the Ghostbusters. So the more ghosts they caught, they'd have a wide open field to build a gigantic containment center to hold all the ghosts. That the ones at the station are just temporary containment fields, but they get transferred like maybe once a month or once every 3 months to the Oregon. And they could even do that, have like, oh, something big happens, and something happens to the main containment unit in Oregon, and it releases a ton of ghosts back out into the world. I don't know. I'm just coming up with ideas off the top of my head. But that's just my idea for the TV show. And if you really think about it, it really does work. So I'm going to close out here, and I'm just going to say, I really think that Afterlife did hold up better. I think it really gave the fans more of what they wanted. It did not attack the fans in the way that the 2016 one did, which I feel was the biggest mistake, and it treated the fans poorly. The 2016 one was absolutely horrid to the fans, and everybody told them, don't be doing this. Why are you doing this? Stop doing this. Stop treating. And then they turned around and said, oh, well, if you're an ist or you're a phobe. But then when people did see it, everything that they were saying was completely flopped on its head, because they were attacking people in that movie. They were attacking genders. They were basically making it a political movie, which turned it into a sad, pathetic Ghostbusters parody that looked like it should have been an SNL skit. It was an hour and a half long SNL skit, which a lot of people have said, and I completely, full-heartedly agree. They were trying to be funny, and they failed. They were trying to be political, and they just looked sad and pathetic for doing that. And I'm so happy that Sony did not give up. They came out with this new one and really earned back the trust of the fans. Now, I think with my idea for the TV show, I think that would be the next step forward that would really bring the fans back in and get them involved and get them to buy merchandise. You could have team jackets. There's just so much potential for having this TV show. Maybe you are a Texas fan. Maybe you like the group down in Texas. Maybe they do things in a special way that like the LA crew doesn't do. Maybe the Miami, Florida fans, people down in Florida, they'll side with that. And you could have jackets that say Ghostbusters, Miami, Florida, or Ghostbusters, Austin, Texas. There's just so much possibility for merchandise, spreading it out, having so many different locations, and having a TV show completely based around it that is still a comedy, that's shot like The Office, and similarly, just like Cops or one of those bounty hunter shows. But that's my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this. People ask me in real life, they ask me, why do I shoot, certain videos where I just show pictures like this? I'm a writer. I'm not exactly camera friendly. I mean, I can sit behind the camera, but I feel like that forces you to just watch me. And you don't need to watch me. You can be working or doing something while the video plays. Yeah, I might show something on screen, but I'm also talking about it. So you don't really need to see much unless I'm actually saying, look at this picture here. See this spot on the picture? This is where they got it wrong. Here I'm just talking. And that is why I mainly don't shoot myself in the videos. Plus, I have to watch my camera when I am using my camera. So like in the D&D movie time videos with my daughter, I actually have to watch the camera, make sure she's staying in frame. I have to make sure we're both in the right spots, because it's a small little screen, so somebody's got to watch it. And it's just easier to have her. She likes being on camera. I don't care if I'm on camera or not, but I can still stand next to it and talk, and people can hear my views and thoughts. I kind of feel like one of those parents from like old cartoons where you hear the voice or you hear a sound and you never actually see their face. But I have my author profile picture out there in certain places. I've put it up on this channel before. Other than that, I just don't feel like I need to actually physically be on the camera to talk to you guys. And if you've noticed, I've had a little bit of a scruffy voice. I am getting over a cold still. I really probably shouldn't have been talking this much, but I wanted to get out a video for Monday, and I wanted to talk about this while it was somewhat still relevant. Ghostbusters Afterlife has been doing really well, which I'm really proud of. Even though I didn't make the movie, I was in full support of it. Even though it had kids, even though the main kid was a girl, from that trailer, she looked just like a little girl version of Egon. So I knew. There was no doubt in my mind. The second I saw how she looked, I'm like, they're going to be related to Egon. Only thing that remains a mystery to me is who the mother is. But, that's something that can be brought up another time. But I want to thank you so much for watching. Like I said, really share this video if you like my idea for the TV series. Get it out there. Share it with anyone you know. Maybe you know somebody who works at Sony who can share it with one of the Reitmans, because I would love to work on this TV show with them. I would love to be a part of that. Even if I just get to write an episode or two or put in a little sense, on story direction or something. This is a great idea. I've gotten a lot of followers on my Facebook page about it, even though I hardly go on that page anymore. But I want to thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, or if you are curious, definitely check out Afterlife. It was definitely worth the money. If I had the money, I'd go see it again. I would have gone every day if I had the money, but I didn't. And I got sick. And even though I got sick, the day that this movie came out, I still went to go see Afterlife. I tried to keep myself, under wraps, so that way I didn't get anyone else sick or anything. And it was just a pleasure to finally see it, and it lived up. And like I said, I was half sick, so the fact that I remember so much of it, and the fact I could actually think of all these things that I'm talking to you about in this video about it, proves that the stuff is so clearly obvious. But I want to thank you for watching. If you have not, please subscribe to this channel. Make sure to click the notification bell. We have a lot more videos coming out for Christmas. And I will talk to you all next time. Bye.